What's up, slackers? Welcome to Book Cheats. Today we'll be talking about To Kill a Mockingbird Chapter 5. So at the beginning of this chapter, Scout constantly nags Jem and Dill.
What?
God, it's great to be home.
Is that you?
Oh, it's Zac Efron, bitch.
To stop playing the Boo Radley game. Eventually, after her constant nagging, they stopped playing the Boo Radley game so much. They didn't completely stop, but it wasn't an everyday thing anymore. Dill, during the summer, asked Scout to marry him. He told Scout that she would be the only woman he would ever love. Scout, you are the love of my life. Someday, we'll be married. After Dill proposed to Scout, Dill started to ignore Scout. Anytime Scout would try to play with Dill or Jem, they would blow her off because she was a girl.
Hey, what are we playing today, guys?
Yeah. This is a guy's game. Because Jem and Dill were leaving Scout out so much, Scout decided to start hanging out more at their neighbor's house, Miss Mowdy Atkinson. The kids had a deal with Miss Mowdy that they could play in her yard as long as they didn't mess with her flowers and as long as they didn't explore her backyard. Miss Mowdy was obsessed with her garden and would spend her summer days in overalls planting. Miss Mowdy Atkinson had 2 gold prongs in her teeth, and one day Scout was admiring her gold teeth, and Miss Mowdy and Scout became instant friends. Miss Mowdy was the best baker in town, and she would constantly bake 3 little cakes for Jem, Scout, and Dill. One afternoon, Miss Mowdy and Scout were enjoying the sunset when Scout leaned over and asked Miss Mowdy if she knew anything about Boo Radley, and if she thought he was alive. Miss Mowdy corrected Scout and said that his name is Arthur and that she knew he was alive because they hadn't taken him out of the house yet. Scout tells Miss Mowdy that Jem said that he thinks they stuffed Boo Radley's body up the chimney. Miss Mowdy laughed and said that Jem was a lot like his Uncle Jack. Jack was Atticus's brother, and Miss Mowdy and Uncle Jack grew up together. Every year, Jack would come over to Atticus's house for Christmas, and he would yell across the street telling Miss Mowdy to marry him, and Miss Mowdy would always reject him and tease him back. Scout asked Miss Mowdy why Arthur wouldn't come outside. Miss Atkinson said that people like Arthur's father believed that any sort of fun was sin, kind of like the Westboro Baptist Church. No ice cream! F ice cream! It's terrible for you! Miss Mowdy said that people like Arthur's father believed that even enjoying plants was a sin, and believed that people should just stay indoors reading the Bible. Scout asked if that's the reason why Arthur won't come outside because he's reading the Bible all day. Miss Atkinson said that she didn't know. Miss Mowdy told Scout that the Bible in some people's hands was worse than a bottle of whiskey in another man's hands. In other words, she was just basically saying that sometimes people take religion way too extreme. Scout asked Miss Mowdy if Boo Radley was insane, and Miss Mowdy said that she knew Arthur when he was younger, and she said that when he was younger he wasn't crazy, but being cooped up in that house by himself for so long probably made him crazy. The next day, Scout was playing in the yard when Jem and Dill came to tell Scout that she couldn't play in the yard because they were already playing there. Scout said that she had every right to play in the yard too, just like they did. Jem told Scout that she could play in the yard as long as she did what they said. After some convincing, Scout agreed, and Jem and Dill said that they were going to leave a note at Boo Radley's house. Scout was instantly triggered from the fear. Scout asked them how they were going to do it, and Jem said that they were going to use a fishing pole and stick it in the shutters. Dill was going to be on lookout while Jem tried to fish the note into the shutters, and they needed Scout to be a lookout down the street. If Dill saw anything, he was going to ring a bell. Scout tried to get out of it, but she had already agreed to the terms. Scout asked them what they wrote on the note, and they said that they were trying to convince Boo Radley to come out because they wanted to know what Boo Radley did in his house, and they told him that they wouldn't hurt him and that they'd buy him ice cream. Scout was shocked and said that Boo Radley would kill them. Dill said that he thought if Boo Radley came outside and sat with them for a minute, that he'd feel better. Scout tried to convince them not to go, but Dill ignored her and excitedly explained his dream encounter. Dill says that he thinks that Boo Radley has a super long beard, and Scout interrupts him and says, like your dad? Dill forgot that he told them that his dad had a a long black beard, and he says that his dad doesn't have a beard. Scout caught him in his lie, and Scout had learned throughout the summer that Dill was a big exaggerator, and he would constantly make up stories and lies. Scout, having caught Dill in his trap, exclaims, "Aha! You said your dad had a black beard." Dill keeps trying to defend his lie, and as Dill kept digging a hole around himself, Jem interrupted them because they were at the house. They all got into their positions, and Jem started to try to fish the note onto the shutters. Jem was struggling to put the note onto the shutters for a long time, long enough to where Scout was getting bored. Scout walked over to Jem and asked what the problem was, and Jem said that it was really hard to get the note off the string. Jem told Scout to go back to her position, and after a few more minutes, Jem and Scout heard Dill ringing the bell as fast as he could. Jem and Scout looked over at Dill, and Atticus was standing right over Dill, staring at them. Atticus told Dill to stop ringing that annoying bell, and walked right past him to see what the crap Jem was doing. Atticus asked Jem what was going on, and Jem tried his usual tactic of explaining that they weren't doing anything. It wasn't working this time, and eventually Jem gave in and said that they were trying to leave a note at Boo Radley's house. Atticus grabbed the note and read what it said, and asked them why they wanted Arthur to leave his house. Dill said that they thought he'd enjoy their company. Atticus turned and scolded Dill, and Dill immediately shrunk. Atticus told them that they weren't to bother Mr. Radley anymore, and that civilized people knocked on people's front doors. He told them that they weren't allowed to play the Boo Radley game anymore, and that even though they thought Mr. Radley's behavior was very unusual, they had no right to bother him. When Jem tried to defend his actions, Atticus shut him down by saying, "You want to be a lawyer, don't you?" Jem was silent, so after Atticus walked far enough to where he couldn't hear Jem shout, Jem shouted that he thought he wanted to be a lawyer, but he wasn't so sure now.
I'm not nervous about going to jail because I've seen the show. It seems fake to me.
What do you got to say to it?
I'm sorry for everything I've done to you.
And that concludes the chapter. Thanks so much for watching Book Cheats. Please leave that like and subscribe. If you have any questions from your homework, leave a comment down below. You guys have an awesome day and slack on.